Delight Your Marriage, episode 25.
Welcome to the Delight Your Marriage podcast, the show where you hear from amazing and inspiring wives sharing their struggles, triumphs, and advice for this journey called marriage. Here's your host, Belah Rose.
Hey there, and welcome back. This is Belah Rose, and you're listening to the Delight Your Marriage podcast. If this is your first time, I just want to say welcome. I just imagine you thumbing through your, iTunes or your Stitcher or your Podbay app on your phone, and you came across sex toys. Whoa. So if that is what happened, I just want to say welcome. You're safe here. It's not crazy. I and every guest, I believe, is endeavoring to live a holy, godly life, before Jesus, because, this life is temporary. But the cool thing is our marriages teach us a lot about being like God, which is incredible. I did a webinar just 2 nights ago now, and it was incredible to have, some of you on there live. It was just wonderful to get to hear what is going on in your heart and your life and how you see some of these areas of sex and what the hangups are on your end, and be able to share what I believe God has laid out in the Bible on why these things are really good and really holy. And just a piece I want to point out from that is I use a lot of images online, and if you have gone to delightyourmarriage.com, you can see lots of quotes and images that I pull out from these different interviews. And I use nature for the background, and there's a specific reason for that, because I believe God created sex as a wonderful part of his plan, just like he created waterfalls as a wonderful part of his plan, and sunsets are actually my favorite. So I use those a lot. Hope it's okay with you, because I just think it's gorgeous, and it helps me to realize that this is God's majesty demonstrated in your bedroom, in the marital union. He blesses it. I'd love for you to join me on my next webinar. It's actually May 12th, Tuesday. If you can block that on in your calendar, I would be so grateful. Go to delightyourmarriage.com/webinar, and we are going to dive back into that seriously. If some of that stuff is over your head and you're just like, I don't get it, don't worry. I've been there, and I'm still working through it myself, but I think we can work through it together, and I think God can help us really get a sense on this thing called sex. Anyway, so again, I just want to dive into Lael's topic today, sex toys. She is just a beautiful soul. You can tell she's so genuine and kind, and she's not scary. She is really seeking to honor the Lord in her marriage, and she's got a great family life. I mean, you can tell there's so many great stories and whatnot. So I just want to stop talking and let you listen, because it's good stuff. Well, welcome back, Delight Your Marriage listeners. I'm so glad that you're here with me. It's Belah Rose, and I'm here with Lael from covenantspice.com. How are you, Lael?
I'm doing great this morning. How are you?
Very good. I'm really excited to connect with you, because I have seen your website here and there just over the years, and now with the podcast, I'm being able to really see the heart behind it all. So would you just go ahead and spend a little bit of time introducing yourself, your site, and a little bit about your family, if you would?
Well, let's see. I'm Lael. I've been married for 16 years to my husband, Kevin. We have 5 children, 2 biological and 3 that we adopted internationally. And we started our website, Covenant Spice, about 9 years ago now. And that came about through some personal needs in our own life, and finding what we were looking for wasn't available, and deciding to create it on our own.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and you and I just chatted a little bit about your kids that are actually from Haiti. So
Yes.
You've got 3. Now they're all, tell us the ages of all your kids, if you would.
I have a 9, 10, 12, and 2 13-year-olds.
That's amazing. As I'm definitely not in the teenage years yet, but that is, I'm sure, challenging now that you've got some preteens and full house. Wow.
Yes. Yeah, but they're great kids.
That's awesome. Well, yeah. So would you share Covenant Spice? What is the mission behind it and what does it do for Christian marriages?
Well, our statement goal is to create passion and intimacy in Christian marriages. And the reason that we started it is, we believe that sex was created by our Father God, and so Christians should be having the healthiest sexual relationships and
Amen.
the best sex of anyone, and yet there's still
Yes.
so much. There's a lack of knowledge, and people don't know where to turn to for information. You sometimes don't want to go talk to your pastor about problems in your intimate life. And so that's our goal, to have a place where people can find resources that they need and ask questions, and we can refer them places if they need extra help, things like that.
That's awesome. Yeah. And just in case anyone who's listening hasn't been to the site, it's really a lot of very modest and just no nudity, very, very Christian oriented, but adult toys and adult products that really help in the passion area of your life. So it's just got a lot of variety and I think you just did a website redo, right?
We did, yes. We have a brand new updated site with a much better just layout and easy to navigate. Yeah, and what we've done is we've done a lot of research to make sure that any of the companies we purchase from do not have any connection to the pornography industry, don't send any money that way. We buy from a lot of the higher quality places that they just have very discreet and elegant packaging.
That's wonderful.
So,
Oh, I just love that because that's exactly what Christians should be standing for is a healthy, good marriage and sex life, but not feeding into the sin in the world and keeping people in bondage of pornography and that kind of thing. Brilliant. I love that. Well, I want to move more into your story very soon, but I wanted to ask you, because this podcast is all about inspiring and encouraging intimacy in marriage, I'm interested in a scripture or a quote that's meant something to you over the years or even recently.
Well, I have a Facebook page, and one that I had just posted that just in the last week that has meant something to me is that when you make a decision to apologize, it doesn't always mean that you're wrong. It means that you're putting aside your ego and valuing the relationship. And so that's just something that's meant something in the last week to me, that you can just make a choice to repair a relationship even if you don't think you were in the wrong over something.
Very cool. Yeah, because it might even just be apologizing for hurting their feelings.
Exactly, or the way you responded or anything. Yes, exactly.
Yes, and I think that's perfect in marriage because sometimes I know I grew up in a place where in my family the argument was you're either going to win the argument or you're losing the argument.
Exactly.
Those are the only choices, right? And that's not healthy. We shouldn't have it that way. It should be I'm spending the time to understand where you're coming from and getting a chance to know you more. And it shouldn't be a win or lose. It should be both are winning. We're winning by understanding each other more, getting a better sense of what's going on. So yeah, I love that. So I'm interested if you wouldn't mind sharing about a season of struggle in your marriage. And so the listeners can really be inspired and understand they might have the exact same struggle that you've had and how you've kind of worked through that.
Well, it would have to do with the creation of my business, and that is that I was raised in the Mennonite church, which some people may not be familiar with, but they've probably heard of the Amish and things. And so very, very conservative, very modest, very, suppressing all even romantic desire or anything. And then when you get married, then it's all well and good. And I found, I've been suppressing everything for 28 years, and I got married and there was no on switch. I couldn't turn anything on. I was just so shut down. And so, my husband and I did a lot of research, and we tried a lot of, just a lot of different things. And then, my husband went to a traditional store and bought something to help me, but I was so offended at the store that
Yeah.
he had gone to that I threw it in the trash,
Yeah.
And then my uh, girlfriends and I went to we're invited to a party where things like this were being sold. And I purchased something and, I had one of the first orgasms. I'm sorry to be so specific,
No, please.
but
Thank you. Yeah, go right ahead.
since our marriage.
Yeah,
And that
that's
was a
awesome.
huge, intimacy is no fun for the wife or the husband if one participant is not having any fun.
Yeah, right.
So
Yep.
that was a huge thing, learning to just release that part of my life and let
Yes.
go and know everything's okay and it's fine and getting whatever help I needed and then turning that into a very satisfying, intimate life. So,
Yes. I love that. And that's a similar story to my own. I mean, my very first orgasm was definitely with a vibrator. And
mhm.
but the cool thing is that since then I've been able to have orgasms other ways, but
You learn how to do
yes.
it with yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yes. So I just want to encourage if there's anyone out there that hasn't ever experienced an orgasm, that might be a segue into the experience. And I think that's a wonderful, wonderful resource, Lael.
Mhm.
So anyway, so can you share a little bit more about how the process of, being okay with sex toys when you started out with this very suppressive kind of mentality on it?
I'd have to thank my husband for that. He
Awesome.
was not raised a Christian at all and had a very different background than I did. So when he became a Christian and then we got married about 2 years after he was saved,
Mm,
he could not understand a lot of my the things that I was unsure about what was okay or what we should do or not be doing. We went through the scriptures together and basically came to the conclusion that if nobody's being hurt, it only involves the two of you and both are willing participants. The Bible doesn't have a lot of
right.
restrictions on what a husband and wife
Yep.
can do
Yeah,
together.
absolutely. Yep. Yep. Yeah, I even say sometimes that, we have all these different words for different types of sex, oral
Mhm.
sex, anal, I mean, all these things. But in the Bible, it just says, get to know your wife. He knew his wife, and then they had this baby. I mean,
Right, exactly.
like I don't think they had those kinds of words or specifications. They were just like, they were in their own bedroom and a baby came out of it at some point. And I mean, that was the point.
Exactly.
Why we have all these rules at this stage is, I don't think that's the way God intended us to have intimacy, is all these rules and concerns and worries and fears, when Adam and Eve, he just said, be fruitful and multiply. That's it. I mean,
And he put the Song of Solomon in the Bible, which you couldn't have a more erotic story and
right.
lines and so yes.
Yep, I love that. I completely agree there. I mean, there's so many, it's a beautiful poetry. I don't think I could talk about sex as beautifully as they do, but it's very, very clear what's
Yes.
going on there.
Exactly.
Which is good. I love that. Very cool. Okay, so I I was met with something similar in that my husband was very much able to kind of disassociate sin with the marriage bed, and that was something that was really hard for me. I saw porn when I was young and just saw that sin and then associated that with the marriage bed. And I'm interested in how you were able to kind of, not assume that your husband, who wasn't raised a Christian, wasn't sinning when he was telling you you can be free in this area. Does that
I
make
think
sense?
I think because we went through all the scriptures on the
Yeah.
subject, and the only commands were not to withhold yourself from each other. I mean,
Mm,
except for a short time for fasting and prayer, and to make sure you're not defrauding each other by not giving yourself to each other. It was just encouragement to be open and sexual and to meet the needs and, draw water from your own well and be with the wife of it was all pro everything.
yeah.
There was no, other than keep it to the two of you inside your own marriage, there was no prohibitions.
Yes.
So I think turning to the Bible and to Christian resources and websites and books.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm going to ask you more specifically about which books you enjoyed, but how long was the process that this took? Did this take a couple of years or? when did you kind of feel more free?
Um, I think during the first year.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah. And then, it's a growing process. So more and more each year. But during the first year, I think was a major just breakthrough and to stop worrying about it and just to relax.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. I think that's a huge thing. Is that what you would kind of encourage wives that were in your shoes, what they could do?
I get a lot of emails from wives and a lot of emails from husbands. Um, and the husbands are just like, please tell my wife,
Mm.
they're just dying for intimacy and for an involved partner and somebody who's excited to be a part of the relationship and not somebody who's just laying back and thinking of England,
Yeah.
not just somebody who's willing, but somebody who's eager
Mm.
and I think when our husbands make that commitment to be faithful, well, we both do, but to one
Right.
person forever, then that's a huge responsibility on the spouse's part to be that eager sexual participant and to be there
Yeah.
for them and keep things new and exciting and fresh. um and I forgot the question.
Oh, no, no, no. Yeah, exactly. Just I
Oh,
can't
and the
remember where I was
wives are
going.
asking for basically permission. Like, is this
Mm.
okay? I feel
Yes.
like I don't know if I should be doing this. Or even my husband just ordered something from you. I got this package. I don't know how I feel about this. And
Yeah.
then there's so many great, I don't really consider myself an expert in general on the
Mm.
subject. I tend to refer people to the marriage bed or different resources online that, they can just really dig in and get some great information.
Yeah, I love that. Just giving wives permission to enjoy themselves, I think
Hmm.
is brilliant. And I think that's something I definitely struggled with for a long time. And yeah, it's interesting that you shared that you had to really go to some resources to really learn, you know.
Hmm.
And I think I was talking to a girlfriend of mine recently, and she said she's never read a book on sex. And honestly, that kind of shocked me because my library of sex books is pretty extensive.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I mean, I just wonder if our culture assumes that sex is natural, and so we don't need to read about it. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
I don't know if maybe Christians come with a few more hangups sometimes
Yeah,
into the relationship, and we have more that we need to get over.
yeah.
So that could be. I mean, I don't know. But yeah, we started out with a Christian sex manual when we first got married, the celebration of sex, and it
Mm,
had step one, step two, you know,
awesome.
and then just lots of books since then. But I think it's a great idea, and I think that there's counselors, there's so many resources that you could just any question there's an answer to.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. So as things were kind of getting better and you started to see this need, what kind of gave you the idea to open a store online?
Well, I was in a play group, and one of the girls hosted a home party by one of the
Hmm.
companies that offers that, and our whole play group went to it, and we had the time of our lives.
Mm,
We had so much fun. We brought home all these products. We talked about it for weeks afterwards,
mm,
but we also felt kind of dirty and very uncomfortable because the person who presented it, some of the jokes were just not exactly clean, and some of the packaging on the products. It wasn't horrible, but we just felt like, ugh, you know.
yep,
And
yep.
I told my husband after the night after the party, I'm like, I wish some Christian would start a business like that so that there'd be options to get these kind of products and fun things, but you wouldn't have to be in that kind of a atmosphere. And then I turned and looked at him and I'm like, I could be that Christian that does that. And that started. It took me about a year after that to get Covenant Spice going, but that was
Wow,
my motivation.
that's awesome. Well, had you ever done something like that before, an online business, or were you a businesswoman
No,
prior?
no, I wasn't. No, I
Good for
actually was a
you.
missionary before I was married. So I barely knew how to
Wow.
use a computer when I got married, but my husband is a computer engineer, so I have
Oh,
a
very
good
good.
support. Yeah.
That's awesome, Leah. What a great thing. And it's interesting that you didn't say, honey, why don't you start this
Yeah.
website?
I'm actually quite good with computers now. I can build a website. I can do just about anything, but yeah.
Wow. That's awesome. I love that. And did you have kids at the time when you started
We
this?
we did. We had my son, my oldest, Michael. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. So you've been doing this as a mom the whole time.
Yes. Yes, I started off having things in an office at my home, and then when my kids got old enough to be more aware, I moved it to a away from the house.
That's very good. So do you not share it with them at this point?
They know generally what I
Okay.
do. They know mommy and daddy because we tell them, both together. But
Yeah.
they sell fun things for married couples.
Oh, very
They don't
nice. Yep.
really know what that means.
That's right. We don't need to go into
No.
for a little while longer, I'm sure. That's very good. So how do you, well, actually, that's kind of a good question about how you talk to your kids so that they start out with kind of a positive view around sex. I mean, since you started off so, I started off the same way, completely ignorant, but how do you kind of make it positive for your kids?
We're very open with our children. They know that mommy and daddy love to have special time, and they know exactly what that means. I mean, they know,
Wow. Okay.
I mean, not exact, but when we're
Yeah.
like, okay, you guys go watch a movie. Mommy and daddy want to spend some time together. They're like, we know what you're doing. And so,
Wow.
they know we started talking about intimacy and sex and everything while they were very small in very general and clean terms, but just so that it be always just a natural conversation to have with them. And instead of saying ever that, it's bad to have sex outside of marriage, it's bad, 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 we just say sex is fun and awesome and wonderful. And it's going to be so exciting when you get married and you can experience this, and just keep it in always uh, a positive bent. And, another thing that I love about my husband is I am such an average looking person and I'm a little bit overweight. And I just love that my husband is crazy about me exactly how
Wow.
I am. I don't feel any insecurity with my looks or, my weight or anything. And I love that my children see that, that we love each other, just the normal old fallen humans that we are, and just
Yeah.
it's not based on just physical appearance or, anything like that. So
I love that. I love that. And thanks for being so open. I would say the same about my physique as well. But how do you make yourself feel comfortable in the bedroom? I ask that because I think a lot of women struggle with, if I don't have the perfect body, why is he's not going to even appreciate the way I look? I mean, what would you say to them?
I can tell you from emails that I received from many, many husbands that they couldn't care less. Now, there may be a few exceptions to that rule, but that's what they're saying is, like their wife is self-conscious or all this. And they're like, I don't care. I just want her to be, coming out and being excited and they just don't care. They just want somebody who's eager and excited to be with them. And,
Yeah.
just and get some plus size lingerie, go do whatever and just be
Yes.
free and be eager to be with them and they will be beside themselves. So, you know,
Yes, yes. That's right. I mean, and if we flip it the other way, I mean, just imagine when you were in, high school or something, when you went to that dance and there was that really handsome boy in the corner that was so insecure and nervous and he would never come up and talk to you. But then there was that guy that was average looking that came up and just said, "You're amazing. I want to dance with you." I mean, imagine, who would you pick? You would pick the one that was eager and excited. You wouldn't pick the cute boy that was so nervous and insecure he couldn't even hold your hand.
exactly. Yes. There's something about, oh my gosh, you want to dance? You want to be with me. Basically, it's the
Yes.
same thing. You're eager to be with me. So, yeah.
Yes. Yes. And I love that, the wife can love their husband in that way. It's when you get kind of out of your own, like, this is about me and my body and my insecurity and, he doesn't like the way I look and all that. But if you get out of it and be like, how can I love him and make him feel good? And it's, I guess, and I wonder I bet you would agree with this, Lael, but I guess it's not a, like you don't want to get into the mind frame. It's all about him in the bedroom. You don't want to get into that
Yes.
because,
I
right.
was actually, while you were saying that,
Yeah.
thinking, and then there should be the companion message to the husbands saying, you darn well better, that is how you better be talking and approaching your wife and
Yes.
and her, because if you're, if a husband is critical or condescending or any of those things, then there also needs to be some help in reading and counseling on the other end, because
Amen.
you can't expect a joyful response to that.
Yes, so true. And a lot of times, because I talk to wives specifically, my tactic is be proactive, do what you can to turn the tide in the relationship. But because I know also husbands do listen to this, be that positive force. Give her a really great, comfortable experience every time you're around her. Touch her body, make her feel like you want her in an intimate way, but also in a general way, because that makes her feel like she can be free with you. So I think it's like a both and, right?
Yes, and in fact, when wives email me about what I recommend purchasing, I generally recommend the more erotic things on my site for their husbands. And when husbands email, I definitely recommend that they go and buy the more romantic things on my site, so that it's not all about here's a present for myself to you.
Yes.
It's like here, so that the husbands are investing in their wives' emotional well-being, and feeding the need for connection and communication and romance. And so since that's where they can tend to fall short, that's where I'm like, don't go and try to get a toy that's going to make your wife be what you want. Do what her needs are. And then for the wives, I'm like, get something that's going to make it more, just exciting and new and fresh.
Yes.
So, yeah.
I love that. And I almost think like whatever spouse you are, husband or wife, if you model the behavior of I'm trying to meet your needs, I'm trying to meet what you where you feel loved, why then, that modeling often really spurs on some motivation for them to, on the flip side, do the same. Though that shouldn't really be your motivation. Your motivation is to love them as Christ loves them, in that same love. Okay, so when someone is nervous about toys specifically, how do you kind of help them to feel comfortable with specifically sex toys?
Well, first off, I always recommend something small and tiny and unobtrusive, and which is one of our main sellers, are under our category of eggs and bullets, which is just something very small that you use during intercourse. Okay. And many people have had their very first orgasms with that. Yeah. And also I just told them, you know what, there's been people have been using cans of whipped cream and cherries, and now it's called a sex toy, but people have been adding things to their relationship for fun forever. You know what I mean? It's not it's not that new, and it's just getting over the taboo in your own mind.
Yeah, I love that, thinking about just how normal it is to include other things to just make it more fun, or just kind of enjoy new things. Just like you would, move from the bed to the couch. It's a new experience on the couch.
Right.
So why not incorporate something else that's kind of help to get some variety and cause it to be a new sensation? Is that kind of what you think?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I love that. And here's a question that I think might be on some people's hearts. Is it as I guess I asked this question because I guess it's probably something that's on my heart, is I could think people have kind of an idea about orgasms, like there's the natural orgasm, and then there's you add something in order to have an orgasm, if that makes sense. And I think some men really feel like a woman should only have an orgasm, just with his member, and that's enough. That should be enough. Or he's not doing a good job, or she's not doing it. Something is wrong if you're not having orgasm just with penetration. And I wonder if you could kind of speak to that question.
Yes. In fact, I think my husband felt that for a while, maybe he's doing something wrong, or am I not turned on enough by him, or what is the problem? But then we just realized that for me, it was stuff in my background that made it difficult. It was it was my own issue. It wasn't anything that he was doing. And then when I was able to have orgasms and be more excited about sex and everything, he just got over it because he was like, well, this is so much better. So he'll be like, it's not like we use something all the time. I was able to use that to, for my body to learn how to have an orgasm and how to respond, what it felt like to be very aware and awake, and turned on.
Yeah.
And but he's often the one, hey, you want me to grab that or this for you, because he enjoys the experience that it elicits. So I would just say that is definitely an insecurity that guys will feel, but if they can look past that and just to the end result.
Yes.
And another question a lot of people have is, are they addictive? Do they make it harder to have a natural orgasm? And studies have shown that they are not. They don't make it more difficult to have an orgasm without one. And there has actually been several research studies on that, and it has not been shown to do that at all.
Okay, cool. Well, it's almost, I kind of want to equate it to like going to an amusement park, having, all these really cool adrenaline rushes and just kind of a fun, lots of interesting experiences there versus having just kind of a good day at the park or something. Like why not have both? Why not enjoy both types of intimacy? The other thing that is kind of cool about the woman's body is the clitoris enables a woman to have multiple orgasms.
Yes.
And a man can experience that. I mean, it's possible if there's like different, kind of interesting things that he has to kind of withhold in order to have another kind of, but it's not something that is like a very easy and enjoyable thing that women, they can just couple seconds later have the next one.
Yeah, I think it's God's way of making up for that we have to work so much harder for ours.
There you go. It might take 30 minutes, but after that you can have 30 of them.
Yes. And there's guys and with disabilities. I have a lot of people who they've had different surgeries or even just dysfunctions, and it makes them so happy to be able to because sex toys are not just for women. There's sleeves, there's stuff for men too. And just to have alternate ways to pleasure each other can be such a blessing. I mean, if a woman's had a C-section or some surgery, to be able to, yes, there's good old-fashioned hand jobs and things, but to be able to do something fun for him, and it can be a real blessing. And if a man is learning to, to last longer or to be able to stay active long enough to actually pleasure his wife, sometimes when he's still working on that, he can at least make sure that she ends up with a pleasurable experience as well, if he's not able to to maintain that long.
Yep. No, that's wonderful. And I think the other kind of cool aspect is there's a couple of scientists that agree that many women cannot have an orgasm with just penetration. And so a man should really get it out of his head that a woman is supposed to orgasm just by the natural in and out kind of thing. That's not actually physically able for many, many women. And so if you're listening and you've just never had either the orgasm, through penetration or whatever, don't feel like you're broken or you're just not good enough or there's something you need to get in your mind to literally your physicality might not allow that. And that's totally okay. And I think Lael's ministry really helps couples enjoy this physical release without the pressure or feeling like I need to figure out how to move my hand in a certain way in order to make it happen. I mean, really, it might be, just kind of a gift for your intimacy that allows you both to enjoy it in a really, really great way. So,
and there's actually a huge percentage of women. The percentage varies so much. I don't quote a number, but that have never had an orgasm, period. And that's not just Christian women. That's just women in general.
That's right.
So, and a lot of people will think, well, there's an issue, you should get counseling, and I'm all for that. But sometimes you can just kickstart a problem, in your body. You can there's a shortcut, and your body can learn to a lot quicker than, years of counseling. So I'm for the counseling too, but I'm saying this is a great tool.
Yes. And I would even say that, a lot of times, well, from my experience was I didn't have an orgasm until I felt really fulfilled in my marriage, which is interesting, just kind of how related the female mind is to her body. And it was a great experience, but there were things that even emotionally needed to get worked out in my marriage kind of before that was able to happen. So, and actually I go into my story a little bit on some other podcasts, but it was actually before I got married, but it was to my husband. So anyway, so that was, I think that is a great key that will really help women kind of feel a little more free in those areas. And, if a toy is going to kind of enhance the experience together, I just think the variety is going to be a helpful thing.
And, the toys are actually just one part of it. Like we have scenario books, and they just give you all the way from ring the doorbell, your spouse opens the door and there's rose petals leading to a box of chocolates. You open the chocolates, it says go up into your, there's it's just romantic and sexual scenarios, things to give you ideas. We have things that give you text message ideas, for fun things to text your spouse to have them look forward to the evening. We have things for games. Some of them have nothing to do with sex. They're all about intimacy. Like an enchanted evening. They're all about getting to know each other. There's massages and, just all kinds of things that are all about romance and relationship as well.
I'm really glad you brought that up, because I think sometimes I'm really glad you brought that up, because I think as women, we really want those romantic evenings, and we need some help with ideas, and our hubbies need some help with ideas.
Yes, exactly.
So having those resources is a really great thing to share. Well, there you have it. I mean, sex toys are not as scary as you might think. And if you haven't been able to enjoy some of the perks of intimacy, aka orgasm, I want to encourage you. The sky's the limit, and a simple vibrator or something along those lines might be the first step in that direction. So I've got an affiliate link, actually, which means that it's the same price to you, but you will get free shipping if you go to delightyourmarriage.com/25, and you'll get all the information there. Also, if you get a chance to come back on Thursday, I'll be sharing with you how to discover my recommendations in this steamy topic. But I do believe that we need a little bit of guidance in this area, because it's not easy to, figure out the muddy waters. Is this okay? Is it not? What's tasteful, blah, blah, blah. I get it. So, I would encourage you to check it out though. Go to delightyourmarriage.com/25. You'll have the link. You can go straight to her site and see. It's beautiful. I mean, it's tasteful. There's nothing that looks scary like you're probably used to. It's really nicely done. So yeah, I guess my homework for you is to explore a little bit, get outside of your comfort zone a little bit, and be willing to try something new, maybe tonight. Okay, God bless you, and I love you, and I'm looking forward to chatting with you again on Thursday. Bye.
Thanks for listening. Stop by delightyourmarriage.com to check out all the show notes, as well as many more resources and articles. Until next time, live with love, wisdom, and passion.